This is Paul Schneiderman on the 139th edition of the Sports Untold podcast, also on Rainier Avenue Radio. My special guest today is University of Washington football legend and former NFL player, Dave Hoffmann. My podcast is now on Spotify, YouTube, Amazon, Google, iTunes, Podbean, and you can go to sportsuntoldpodcast.net. Encourage my listeners to click the like button regarding my show and check out my show on some of these other outlets. My producer is Olivia Coyne. She's doing a great job. Been friends with her family for a long time. She's a University of Washington student. Let me get back to you now, Dave Hoffmann. Dave is a UW football legend. He was a prominent member of the 91 National Championship team, once Pac-10 Defensive Player of the Year, led the Huskies in tackles for 3 years, consensus All-American in Dave's final senior season, UW Husky Hall of Fame member, played for the Steelers. Dave has also had a long and distinguished career as a Secret Service agent. Did you retire recently, Dave, as a Secret Service agent?
I did. Yeah. So just about 2 years ago.
Okay. Well, I'm going to do something a little different in this interview. I'm going to be starting probably mostly with your Secret Service career. I'm going to do a little reverse. But I really appreciate coming on the Sports Untold podcast. We're looking forward to this. Also on Rainier Avenue Radio.
Absolutely. I'm really pleased to be here. I look forward to yapping with you guys.
Absolutely. And you can give me a critique of my questions and style when we're all done, right? Okay. So
that sounds good.
Okay, good. Dave, well, actually, we'll start with football real quickly. Tell us kind of how you got the football bug as a youngster growing up, I believe, in mostly California.
Yeah. Well, and actually, there's a little story before that. Grade school and partway through junior high, I lived down in Texas, and so it was obvious down there. The Cowboys were hot back in those days. Not to date myself, but late '70s and '80s, and that's why I wore in high school. I wore 33 for Tony Dorsett, and then in college, when I had to get a real linebacker number, I went with Randy White from the Dallas Cowboys back in those days too. So no, it was something I look forward to playing. I did a lot of soccer and that kind of stuff growing up, and my folks made me wait till I was kind of in the puberty stages of my growing up to kind of strap on the helmet.
Do you think that's good? Well, I'm going to ask you some probably questions about the safety of football later. Do you think it's good for kids to wait till they're like maybe junior high or high school to play football?
100%. I can see no reason. No, just something my dad said to me that really rang true. The older I got, he said, "Football's a man's game, and to play it like it needs to be played, it's you really have to kind of." I guess to say it simply, you can't be a boy, and it's boy. I enjoyed soccer, and I would have kept playing that if I could have too. I loved it, but there's some great other alternatives. Love playing hoop, and there's flag football these days, and so many good things, and obviously baseball and everything. We're blessed in this country to have so many options. So it's but that I definitely think kids should wait if possible.
Interesting perspective. You're not alone in that. So did you see this coming, Dave, early in your life, that you would have a career as a great college football player, you'd play a little bit in the NFL, and you'd become a Secret Service agent? Did you see that happening when you were a kid growing up?
I mean, I can't deny that I had a lot of dreams about doing things, but you never really know what's gonna happen and what's gonna take place. And I think you work hard and you think you might be okay and you might have what it takes, but it's kind of you got to go out there and kind of see what happens, I guess. And no, I've been blessed. I've met a lot of great people over the years, done a lot of fun things, and had some great some great experiences.
I want to ask you about what sparked your specific interest in the Secret Service. I'm interested in the training to become a Secret Service agent. Was it like a Don James camp in a way? Tell us about that process.
Yeah, you know what? It was different. It was like in some ways it was similar. In some ways it was different. We're kind of getting into some things. Understanding what's legal to do, what our responsibilities are as a Secret Service agent, both in the criminal justice system and also in the protection. What we're probably better known for is our protective services. And I always enjoy a good challenge, and so I really enjoyed going back there and learning how to do the hand-to-hand, the the classes. A lot of it was very natural. I was just blessed to still not be too banged up from my years of football. It was neck and back injuries. I was not going to be able to keep playing football, but I could definitely go out and do something else. And so it was and be with other great teammates. And so that was kind of the fun and the pleasure for me.
Did you think of being a Secret Service agent in a training? Did you think of it as kind of a sport in some ways?
I did. Yeah, I did feel that way about it. And I think so many things line up with that as well. And I think um, and as far as having the game plan, going in, but also being able to adjust to it and adjust on the fly and be able, to communicate with the guys that you're with and the ladies that you're working with and make things happen. And that was always, if I'm being real frank with you, it was always a joy and a pleasure to kind of feel that again. And there a lot of the same feelings and vibes I had, I guess, going through me, would kind of surface from time to time.
Were a lot of the Secret Service agents successful athletes that you encountered?
Yeah, exactly. There was quite a few guys and ladies were great in their own right at different. A lot went were maybe more into the academic part of it, and other parts were very um, there's people from all over the country that did a lot of different things, and I think the thing about it is that they all, we all saw the value in what we were getting into, and we all, leaned on each other and used each other's strengths, for the good of the team.
Okay, I got a Trivial Pursuit kind of question for you, Dave. Are you the only former NFL player who became a Secret Service agent?
No, there's been a few other ones. I worked with at least a couple other guys that were NFL alum as well, and very similar to me. They did not, due to injuries or whatever, they did not last a long time in there. But just talking about a good buddy that went to Clemson years before me, and another guy who I just saw on Facebook yesterday, and they and then there's a lot of guys also that were great college players that didn't have the opportunity that maybe could have done it as well, and they um, and these guys still amaze me with what they do today. And
Well, I just thought of a subject that I think it'd be fun for a sports journalist to do a story on the former college and NFL football players became Secret Service agents. You just planted a
yeah,
story here a little
there
bit.
it is. There it is. Yeah.
Okay, this is one of these kind of naive questions, but I'm still going to ask it. There was that famous movie that came out in 1993 with Clint Eastwood and Rene Russo in A Line of Fire, a movie about the Secret Service. How realistic was that movie?
And I guess to be really honest with you, I've only seen parts of it. I've not sat through the whole thing, and there are some similarities to real life, I guess I'd say, and some things that overlap, and some things. Um, I'd say they definitely had some good analysts and good folks that helped them out and gave them really good critiques and with the verbiage and the movements and the things that we do kind of behind the scenes. Yeah, you could tell they had worked with some pretty good former professional Secret Service agents.
Pretty solid then. Pretty
Yeah,
good job. Yeah.
exactly.
And of course, we can't forget the romantic encounters between Clint Eastwood and Rene Russo. So
Oh yeah, exactly,
right,
exactly.
right. Um, Dave, who's a figure in Secret Service history? It can be a rank and file agent you worked with or a director. Who's someone you really admired in Secret Service history?
Well, I probably one of my old bosses that I still talk with a lot. I work with so many great guys. There's a lot of guys. I was on the counter assault team that was was a tactical team. I wasn't able to obviously be in the military and that kind of stuff, but I really respected what they did, and we got a lot of the same training. And a lot of the guys I went through CAT with um, are guys that I really look up to and appreciate as good friends today. And then and I got a boss that was an old AAA baseball player that Smokey Everett back in Ohio, and just wonderful people that we we leaned on each other, and we went through some some things that people may consider to be dangerous and different things, but we were doing our job, and we leaned on each other, and we always knew that like I always say, you always want to be the guy that your teammates want to go to war with, and I was lucky to have guys like that alongside me all the time.
But there's not a single one you're gonna stay to
You
some
know
of your.
what? No, you know what? And I mentioned Smokey's name because I'd go through a door with him. Even today, and what a great person he was in my in my early agent life, and still is today. And so that's he would probably be the one. But I tell you, there's so many guys, and when I think back to a lot of my mind and thoughts go back to my experiences on the counter assault team and getting to train, and we went and trained with. I probably shouldn't get too deep into it, but what the best teams in the country, in our military, and yeah, it was great, and it was a blessing. It was fun for me. I really really enjoyed it, and just I was a sponge. I soaked it all in.
Was there a particular suspenseful moment you can mention when you worked on this particular team? Was there anything that you can share? I don't want you to get in trouble with it, with any secrets.
Yeah, no, I know, no, and probably what I'll just kind of ballpark it, but I'll say, there were times that we really need to lean on the intel that we're getting from people, and make sure it's the and use that combined with our own life experiences, and see what decisions we need to make, and how we need to operate, and what what needs to be our priorities on a certain on a certain mission. And I think having these guys, and being able to be friends as well as professionals together. We always respected each other, listened to each other, and we used to call it the truck. We'd all be there in the truck, and anybody could speak up and speak their mind about what they thought. As long as it's respectful and it's done right, we all got along great.
Okay, we'll get to football in a couple minutes. I can't help it. I do have a few more Secret Service questions. So, you guarded. I don't know if I'm using the right terminology, but you were part of the team that protected President Bush 41 and President Clinton. You also protected Vice President Gore and Vice President Cheney. Can you share a couple nuggets about those gentlemen? Can you tell us? Are they kind of guys you can have a soda or a beer with after work? Can you share about a couple of these presidents and vice presidents? Any interesting stories or tidbits?
A lot of these folks have their own. Our
Dave, the sound's a little low, by the way. Just a second. The sound's a little low. Right. That's better. Yeah.
Right. We're not always up really close to these folks, and although we may protect them and do things, I wasn't on permanent protective details for all these protectees, but you definitely did spend time working protection assignments for all of them, pretty much, when you're in the service, and you're in for the whole thing. And whether you're back in Washington D.C. as a full-time protection agent, or if you're out in the field and you're getting pulled on things from every other month to travel somewhere, but what I'll say is our job's not to be great buddies with these guys, and there are times when you have a laugh or something with somebody, but really what's important is to see their value to our country. And I didn't get too personal usually with a lot of these folks, but what I would do is just made sure I did my job, and made sure that whether we like to think about it or not, our country is extremely important to the world in general. And so us keeping our elected leaders safe and able to do their job is a huge thing. And I think sometimes we might take it for granted when nothing's happened for a while. But we always have to think back how important it is, what you're really doing. And that also should motivate guys and girls to be in there in the best shape, the best mental fitness, all the way through your whole career, and make sure you can take care of business, whenever something might happen. it it's very rarely that anybody has a if it's something we know about, we shut it down before it happens. And so that's the thing. When it goes bad, it goes bad. And you know, not to sound like an old football player like I am, but you got to go make a play. And so that's really what it comes down to.
Did you find the two presidents, Bush 41 and President Clinton, the two vice presidents that I mentioned, Gore and Cheney, to be friendly on a one-on-one level? Did
Oh
you?
yeah, anybody I had with in W and Obama that I was back when I was on the East Coast, they were in office. Everybody seemed really pleasant, and when it's behind the scenes, there's not a whole lot of reason to not be yourself. And so I've got
Right.
no reason to believe everybody's not. All those guys aren't what they seem to be. So.
Some pretty famous people you spent some time with, though, for sure. So,
Yeah, it's interesting for sure. Definitely.
yeah. And I wrote that you were part of Senator Bill Bradley's team when he ran for president 2000. Which has to shoot any hoops with the former NBA player at all, or
No, you know what though? We did. I did let somebody throw him a bounce pass. Once I saw there wasn't anything on the ball, gave him a pass with a basketball, and it was kind of nice. He had him sign it and gave it over to him after he did that. That was pretty fun. Yeah,
Yeah.
and I was a rookie back then. Yeah, those are the days. Yeah.
Right. I saw that you were part of Bill Bradley's protective team ran for
Yep.
president. Well, this will be probably my last question of Secret Service. So we're going to get into definitely some football topics. So something came up that was reported that President Biden, again, this is what's been reported. I mean, there may be more of the story. President Biden was apparently uncomfortable being guarded by some Secret Service agents who were sympathizers to President Trump, and apparently President Trump expressed similar sentiments. He wasn't comfortable being protected by people who are not politically friendly to him. We're in a divided political age. Or has the Secret Service always had a situation they want agents that are known as political supporters of the presidents and vice presidents that they're protecting? Tell us about that, Dave. Is this a new thing, or has it always been that way a bit?
No, as far as I've always known, and in my experience, we that's something we all keep out of it. And I don't, and I think it would be a shame for your protectee to kind of like even know where you really stood on things. I mean, I think that should be a non-issue, and you respect the voters and who got the person in there, and you roll with that. And that's part of being an American. And that's just I think that's how we got to look at it. And I think that's I'd be surprised if there was more than a couple people that really if they felt really strong one way or another would really let that be known too much. But I like in my experience, I haven't seen any of that kind of stuff.
Of course, a lot of times stories get reported. There can be half truths to the stories.
That's right.
I read that a few months ago or a while ago. Okay, I want to get to football now a little more and some other subjects. And I got a question about the late Jim Lambright. He was your defensive coordinator. He coached for 6 years at UW, and his 1998 firing was very controversial. Jim coached for 6 years. He had over a 600 winning percentage. Do you think, looking back a quarter century ago, and this is like kind of old school Husky fan talk, do you think Jim Lambright was wrongfully fired?
I don't. And so the thing is, I never really know what's going on when you're not part of the program, and you don't really know what's going on behind the scenes and everything. But this is what I'll say. He's as good as they get as a coach and a person, and a defensive mind, and a leader of men. And I always felt honored. I mean, he was a big reason why I came up here, as well as Don James. And when I met with them there, and especially Lambo, it was everything came right from his heart, and you could feel it. There's no BS. He just he said, and I remember sitting with him in I went to this little high school on the south side of San Jose, and we're sitting in the locker room, and he said, Dave, I like you because you're nasty. And I said, and I was being respectful and a gentleman, but I knew what he meant. He meant on the field, and just the kind of love and desire to play like that. And I always remembered, I said to myself, this guy gets it. and this is the kind of guy I want to play for. And he let us be us, and thanks to his attitude, he realized we had the players to attack, and we went and got it, and it was fun playing with him, and he comes across my mind many times every month. He pops in my head. Almost anything can make me think of him, and all the great times we had together.
Husky history, football history would have taken a much different turn, some different turns if Lambright was not let go in '98, because we had the short time with Keith Gilbertson, we had Neuheisel, we had Willingham. If Jim had coached another 10 years or so, Husky football history could have taken some major different directions, right?
That's right. Yeah, I know that, and that's the whole thing. It's always the woulda, coulda, shoulda, right?
Right. The counterfactual.
That's right. Yeah.
You played under the late Don James, and I've had a whole bunch of your teammates on my show, and former Huskies, Pallure, Jimmy Rogers, Greg Lewis, Mario Bill. I've had a lot of guys of your general era. Some are a little older, like Joe Steele, but I always get some Don James talk in. What was the biggest teaching you got from Don James?
I think it was always about, his big thing was preparation, and I always think it always came down to him being prepared, and it all kind of came down from that, down to the rest of us. And I think it was always about the physical part of it, the mental part of it, the emotional part of it, and then I really think he did so much for the coaches. He was a guy that he didn't spend a lot of time with us players, but he really coached his coaches, and he really helped them be the best they could be for all of us. And personally, selfishly, I mean, I had Lambright, and then you look at the guy I was talking about, Randy Hart, the other day, and some of these guys. I mean, we had so many outstanding position coaches that and he had a knack for it. He had a knack for finding these people, and he had and putting them in places and letting them do their thing. And a lot of them left to go on and be coordinators or head coaches somewhere else. But his preparedness was always something that was. I mean, people would. I mean, if you just met the guy, you wouldn't believe how prepared he was for every situation. He thrived on it.
The preparation skills that you've established in your life, a lot came from Don James in some ways.
Absolutely.
And I heard he really was big on punctuality. I heard he was really hard. Like a van would leave sometimes if someone wasn't on the van right away.
Yeah, that's why even today it's 5 minutes early is on time. And that's why I felt so bad about getting this call started late, man.
Oh, gosh. This is not a football team.
I know, but I'm just saying it eats at you, and you're trying to get stuff done, you're trying to work and everything, and there's times it comes together, and there's times it doesn't, but you do everything you can do to make things happen, and that's I think all of us take pride in that.
Going back to the question I asked about Jim Lambert, I don't want to put words in your mouth. Are you kind of the opinion maybe he should have gotten a couple more years?
I definitely would have loved to have seen that, and I definitely would have loved to have seen him, and I really think he was just starting to kind of grow as a head coach, and I think he came over during that turmoil we had with some of the suspensions and that stuff, and I think if he had a chance to kind of have a couple quiet off seasons and really see what he wanted to do as a head coach, I think he would have. I really think he would have taken off.
A number of years ago, a Seattle Times columnist wrote that he and Barbara Hedges were different people. It was described as being a little bit of Stanwood versus Madison Park. There was a little bit of the different personalities between him and his athletic director at that time.
Yeah, I really don't, like I said, I really don't know the details for all that, but I could see that. And the thing is, Lambeau's going to stick up for what he believes and what he thinks, and that's who he is, and it's why some people you love or you don't, and he's definitely a guy I love and would always have his back, and he's going to stand up for what he believes in his guys. And I don't know what really happened. I don't know the inner workings of all that stuff, but I respect everybody there around the program back in those days, and I think everybody had the program's best intentions in mind. It's just that we would have loved to have seen Lambeau be a little longer
Right.
on the
Right.
throne. Yeah.
Well, these are two questions I've asked every guest for the last several years, pretty much, and I get the most fascinating answers. Who's a living sports figure you'd love to spend some time with? It can be a commissioner, an owner, a player, someone who's still with us in the sports world. Who's a deceased sports figure in history you would have enjoyed spending time with?
Well, I'll go back. Just a couple weeks ago, we lost Butkus. Dick Butkus passed away, and that was I did have a couple circumstances to spend some time with him, and when I was lucky enough to be on the and I was my senior year, I was lucky enough to be a Butkus finalist, and I went out to Orlando, Florida, and spent a weekend out there, and I'll tell you, it couldn't have been any better. He was even more than I thought. Uh, had me up to his suite for beers after it was over, and was great to my family, and I could go on, and I still yap with some of his really good friends. Um, he's just a great-hearted person that was thankful for everything he had, and was an incredible player to watch. And um, when we were growing up, Paul, you watch these old videos, and they'd show him on out there and just filleting people and having a good time. And you always wanted to be that type of linebacker. And even more than that, the kind of person he was, I really respected him and liked him a lot. So my condolences to his family for his passing, and I've shared that already with them. But and then somebody that I would love to yap with today. I think I'd love to sit down sometime with Steph Curry. I really I like how he handles himself, and I like what's important to him in life, and how he is such an incredible solo player, but also such a great team guy. And I mean, to do what he's done, and to maintain his priorities, and his family life, and his thankfulness to God and all that. I just, man, he's somebody I really respect, and I would love to sit down and cut into a steak with him sometime, and shoot the bull. And who knows, maybe it'll happen. But anyways, I really respect him, and what he stands for.
Two great names. I mean, you watch Steph Curry take these 30-foot shots. He makes it look easy. I mean, just like, wow, it's
I
just it's
know,
incredible.
I know,
And Dick
exactly.
Butkus is a great name. Thanks for sharing the name of Dick Butkus, the late linebacker pass. And tell me if you agree with this. I just thought of something. When people think of great home run hitters in baseball, the names will come up are like Babe Ruth or Hank Aaron. Would you agree when you think of a great linebacker, Dick Butkus has to be the first name that's ever going to come up? Would you agree with that?
Yeah, you know what? And he also looked the part. I mean, his name sounded like a linebacker,
Right, right.
I mean, he looked it, and he played for the Bears, and he really is. I kind of think the epitome of what, especially an inside middle linebacker, um, is really all about.
Butkus could play a linebacker in the movies.
You got it. You got it.
By
All
the
he
way,
have to
what
do
is
is
your
be
favorite
himself.
sports
Yeah.
book? What is your favorite sports movie?
So my favorite sports book, you know what? There's a lot of biographies that I've read over the years, and and then holy man, so many players, and that's actually what really got. I started reading a lot of these guys' autobiographies, growing up when I was a kid, and that's really what also um, lit my attraction and interest for the game of football. And yeah, movie, man, holy cow, there's so many good ones. I just I remember watching The Longest Yard with my dad. The first one, the old one with Sonny. Our buddy Sonny Six Killer was on that one actually. Um, and that one, and I had so many good laughs, and I remember I loved to sit with my dad and watch, part of a ball game or part of the movie or anything, and so that I think that adds a little bit of nostalgia to it for me.
Was Burt Reynolds in the first Longest
That's
Yard movie?
right. Yeah, that's right. Yeah, that's it.
I think Chris Rock, Adam Sandler were in the remake, right?
Exactly. And
Okay.
Bob Sapp, who played for the Huskies in the mid '90s with my brother Steve, he was in that second one as well.
Okay, I didn't know Sunny Six Color was in the first one.
Yeah, I know. You'll have to check it out. You have to go back through and you'll see him getting off the bus one time. He looks, yeah. But Sonny, he still looks like he's that old. So he still looks like he's 25. So
I've been trying to get Sonny on my show, so hopefully,
yeah,
the
yeah.
topic I'd want to talk about his role in that movie. I had your former teammate on a couple of years ago, Ed Cunningham, and Ed has become very outspoken about some safety issues in the sport of football. What's your take on Ed's views on the safety issues in football?
Well, I really think he's got probably an opinion that's a lot more popular with players, and especially former players, than people would like to think, because we all suffer. You play center like Ed did, offensive line, linebacker. You're going to leave the game with some injuries, and we have more doctor appointments than we'd like to admit, and there's a way to still enjoy the game and not have all the same. I was telling somebody the other day, Paul, that I some of these hits that we put on players are, back in the day, we'd get praise for them, and now they think you're a criminal, and I understand that, but it's also, it was a little different back then, and it's still a very physical game, and I think that's why a lot of people enjoy watching it. But there's a way, especially during the week, not to go out and bang all the time and hit. And I used to always say to go out on game day and take care of business and be as physical as you need to. A guy that really knows what he's doing doesn't need to go do that all during the week. He can work on the mental aspects of it, and the game plan and the responsibility and the scouting points to it. And I think and I'm just glad to see that they're getting away from having so much physicality at practice during the week. And not that the technique of it and that kind of stuff, the guys can't work it, but they can go over and hit on a sled or something like that, and not knock noggins all the time like we used to. So
Right. Different era, different era. Well, Ed
right.
Ed took a very strong position. He left his coveted broadcasting position just because he was uncomfortable with some of the
Yeah.
safety of the sport of football. He kind of put his money where his mouth is in a way, didn't he?
Yeah, no, I saw Ed down at the SC game here a couple of weeks ago, and it was so good to see him. And I'll tell you, what a wonderful guy. He was a real leader for our team, and um, just a real rational, thoughtful guy that was tough as nails and smart as a whip. And he's somebody I'd go to war with any day. And his opinion is valued, and I'm glad he's sharing it.
You've mentioned a couple times, and I've read a couple of other interviews about kind of the unity from that national championship team and those teams in the early '90s. It just seemed like such a great group of guys that all got along pretty well. And you had a tragedy in your life, where you lost your wife, and you mentioned that the unity of that team definitely came back and was supportive of you and your family many years later. Just tell us a bit about that.
Yeah, no, that's exactly right. So it's just a little over 5 years ago, I lost my wife, and the just a horrible.
Dave, the volume's a little low again.
Oh, yeah, sorry. No, it was about 5 years ago. I lost my wife, and just unexpected tragedy, suicide, and she dealt with a lot of depression and anxiety and issues, and it would the and you never know how you're going to react when you have to go through something like that in life, and how it's gonna affect you in the short term, the long term, and then you think about your kids, how they're going to deal with it, and what can you do for your kids and all that kind of stuff. And I'll tell you, the relationships I had with my teammates, was so, I knew I knew that they knew how I felt, and they would call and say things like, I don't want to start getting emotional here, but like, I mean, they knew how I was doing, even if I didn't feel like picking up the phone. Like, they just knew. The guys knew me, and they they were awesome, and they're still here for me today. And that's a true no bullshit brotherhood. Like when you have that, and yeah, yeah.
Well, I didn't
I'm
want to make you uncomfortable, Dave. I just the
Oh,
support.
good. No. Honestly, I enjoy talking about it. It just brings back a lot of things I'm thankful for, and a lot of things in life. Yeah.
It just struck me as just a really strong example of the unity that you had with your teammates. That
Yeah, it's a beautiful thing, man. It really
yeah,
is.
yeah. It just seemed like such a great group of guys on that team. Those a couple of those early
You know
90s.
what? These guys came from all over the country, and it just, and I talk about it, and I say we had no idea that we'd all kind of click like we did, have the same work ethic like we did, valued a lot of the same things in life, and man, we were there for each other, and it could be something from homesickness or an injury or whatever, and guys were there and would put their arm around you and go to war with you, would laugh with you, have a meal with it, whatever. And it was it's something I think that's special about sports, but especially the gladiator sport of football. I think it really binds guys together.
Well, I don't think a lot of people really always understand that like you mentioned, Dave, that Jim Lambright, when he called you a beast or whatever, but some of the football players, some of the nicest people you can meet off the field, so it's
Yeah, right.
guys can just tackle and play so competitively and then be such kind of teddy bears off the field, so
Yeah.
uh,
No, I think you're right. I think guys that can really go to that length to be physical and be nasty, as we are talking about, are also like I think their personality stretches the other way also, and they can be some of the nicest guys you'll ever meet.
right.
I just think that allows people to really grow and stretch what they're able to do and look at things. So
Right. No, I've talked to a few football players about that. Real quickly, a little on a little lighter subject, but still an interesting subject. This is kind of a question among Husky Nation question. Do you think Chris Peterson has a good case for Husky Hall of Fame? His 6 years as a coach, took a team to Rose Bowl, took a team to the Final Four. Do you think Chris Peterson should become a Husky Hall of Fame member at some point?
yeah, I do. I really like and respect him, and for what he is, for what he's done, and for what he's done in his career in general. And I really think he came and um, put put the Huskies back on the map. I think he did, and I think some guys like Sark and some of these guys were getting there, but he really came and was a real catch, and I think I'd love to see him in there. I'd love to see him in the Hall of Fame if it was up to me.
I agree. I've got some different opinions on whether his 6 year run merits him.
Right. Yeah, understandable. Yeah,
But hey, that's a full Senate term, so.
that's right.
But Dave, I got a few more questions if you don't mind. I just,
Sure.
it's a lot of fun talking to you. Can you feel free to comment on this NIL era, this name, image, likeness era? And as part of my question here, I got a question for you as part of this question. Should Billy Joe Hobart get something of a pardon for the 50,000 loan he took out many, many years ago?
Yeah. Well, you know what? I may not say too much about the Billy thing because I don't yeah. But I'll tell you what.
Fair enough.
And this actually goes along with what you were saying before
Yeah.
of the game being physical and this and that. And I think the guys should get something for what they're for what they're doing and for what they're giving up. And I remember back in the day, we weren't allowed to get a free cheeseburger,
Right.
from somewhere. And you this is going to affect your life forever in a positive and also a physical negative way, whether you like it or not. It just is. And thing is, we'd all go do it all over again, but we're still giving up something, and you're giving something and for a place that's making a lot of money. And I'm glad to see the guys get some too now. That's a pretty simple way that I look at it, but I think it's important that hey, it's kind of the American way, and it's just
I
like,
tend to agree.
yeah,
If you're a legal adult and you're 19, 20 years old,
right.
why not make a little money
That's right.
doing a
That's
photo
right.
shoot, whatever. Yeah.
Yeah.
Yeah. Well, Well, I didn't want to put you on the spot with the Billy Joe Hobart situation, but looking back, all right, he took out a $50,000 loan, but compare that to what's going on today. It
You
seems
know
like a
what?
pretty,
I'd pardon him in a second. I'll be honest. I'd pardon him in a second.
right.
I love him, and I just think it was, I mean, youthful indiscretion, and just,
Yeah.
oh man, just, yeah. And then the only thing I regret was that started to pull a lot of other stuff, like into the kitty, and we had a bunch of noses up here, snooping around, and like I always say, the Pac-10, the rest of the Pac-10, their asses were a little sore, so they were going to come
Right.
get us,
Exactly.
for what we were doing to them. So, yeah, that's what happened.
Yeah, I know the lawyer who was the leader of that suit against the Pac-10. The case got dismissed, but hey, there was something there. There was. It
Yeah,
seemed, you know,
yeah.
something there. So I know I'm with you on Billy. It seems like let's give him the equivalent of a pardon now. It was.
Exactly. Well, you can do that right now, Paul. You can announce that he's pardoned. I think,
Yeah,
you
yeah,
got
yeah. The Hoffman
yeah.
Schneiderman pardon of Billy
That's
Joe.
right.
Yeah,
That's right.
yeah, exactly. You played for a year with the Steelers. I just got a few more questions. I won't keep
Yeah.
you too much longer. And what was your favorite moment in your 1 year with the Pittsburgh Steelers?
Honestly, when a great time with them, met a lot of great people, but I got to come back and play in the Kingdom, and we actually lost a close one, right around Christmas, but it was just neat to come back and to be around, what was home for me for a long time, and that was we lost in the first round of the playoffs of that year, but it was neat to come back and fly back. Or I think it was the day after Christmas, and James Clifford brought me a plate of leftover dinner from his house and down to my hotel, and it was cool. And my brothers came up from San Jose, and so that was it was good stuff. That was a good memory.
Neat one to play, coming back and playing in the Kingdom of Seattle. You were associated with Bill Cowher was your coach, who's now a Football Hall of Fame member. You also played with Rod Woodson. Can you share a couple tidbits about these two NFL Hall of Fame members?
Well, you know what, and so Cowher was just outstanding, and he said it like it was. He really cared about the guys. He really wanted the guys to be the best they can be, and I think that's why he was so successful over the years. And Woodson, what I remember about Rod was that he and guys like Kevin Green and some of these other guys, they the hard work that you start putting in back in high school, they still work that way, and that was beautiful to see that these guys just weren't resting on their laurels. They were really as good as they were because of God-given talent, but also how hard they worked, and it was fun to see. Man, these guys running down the neighborhood streets in the off season and doing things, and that that you wouldn't always respect. I guess you wouldn't really always expect these guys to be doing this and out amongst the people and all that kind of stuff. And it was really cool to see the blue collar aspect of that.
Rod Woodson was a real hard worker then.
Yeah, absolutely.
Yeah. And Bill Cowher was pretty kind to players, you indicated and stuff.
Wonderful guy. Yeah. Couldn't have been better.
Right. Are you happy with Caleb, our current coach? I always mispronounce his last name. Is it Kalen DeBoer?
Kalen DeBoer. You know what? I've got nothing but glowing stuff to say about this guy. I would love to play for him if I was back in the day and or be associated with him in any way. He's the real. And I'm not just obviously saying this. He's the real deal, and we are so blessed and lucky to have him up in Husky land, and he's going to do some big things, I think, for a long time. And that was a great get by the administration, and I'm just excited to see him there, and he's got my support as long as he's there.
I met him once. He's a big guy, by the way.
He is. He's a good sized guy. He was a player, and he just so he knows what he's talking about, and he's got a great staff with him, and these guys want to come coach and play for him. So I think it's all good.
Like when I met Pete Carroll once, I was like, Pete's a pretty pretty kind of small guy in a way, and then you meet DeBoer. He's a big dude,
I know, exactly. I know. Yeah. And I think that's good. When he walks into somebody's living room and talks to him, he's got a great genuine disposition and a great head on his shoulders. And he relates so well to this generation and he's wise, man. He's been through the ringer. So he gets it.
Do you hope the Apple Cup continues?
I do. Whether it's earlier in the year or at the end of the year, whenever, I just hope these guys still link up at least once a year and bang it out. And
I agree.
I think it'd be good for the area.
Greg Lewis made the point. I've had Greg on several times. He's a friend. Greg made the point that if they had it at Husky Stadium every year or at Lumen Field, the UW would profit more, because he says that UW loses money when they go back to Martin Stadium and play. So
yeah, to me, I don't know about all that, but it actually makes sense. But I would just be fun to see him play, and I think it would be good for the east and the west of the state, all the alum and people that didn't even go to school there. I think enjoy seeing him play. So
no
I
doubt.
really hope it works.
I no doubt. Well, Dave, I'm going to wrap it up now, but I want you to share something that maybe hasn't come up today you'd like to share with me and the listeners. I like to do that in some interviews. If there's something I missed that is important to you, I want you to share it. I also want you to share what's in the future for Dave Hoffmann.
Well, so I'll start with the end first. I've after I retired, I went to work for a local company down here in the Bay Area, and I protect the guy down here. I'm doing a lot of the same things I did with the Secret Service, just a little different group, and some outstanding professionals, and it's been really good. And I do enjoy getting back up to Seattle whenever I can, and it's one of those things that my girlfriend and I have been to more games this year than we have yet, and we're hoping to go to the Pac-12 championship game. So it's been a fun year on that aspect. And boy, you really covered a lot of things. And I think what I always did, and I don't know if there's a lot of different routes that we could go as for our hobbies and professions and things, but I just always encourage people to go follow your heart and do what works for you, what works for your family. And I've always said making a decision for family is never the wrong choice. And I still tell guys that even today, that youngsters or people that are looking to transition, and also at the same time, you got to follow your dreams. And so there's a lot to tie into that. I tried to do that, just going from my gut and playing football, and it became a lot more than a passion for me, and it became something it became a big part of my life. And still today, I look at it. I still try to read the play like a linebacker would read the play when I'm watching it on TV, and I try to get the read and guess where it's going to go before it does. And I think that's probably the way I'll always look at it. And it's just fun. And the best thing about passions and careers and that kind of stuff is really, when you really think about it, it's the people you meet along the way, and the people that I've met around the world, and the people that I've met in the sports world and the protection career. I've been really blessed, and I'm really thankful that I got so many great people out there that will help you through the really hard times, and then be there for you, and enjoy some good stuff too. So
love it. I do have one more question. I just led you. You wrote a book about your life. Could you ever do a sequel to the book? Could there be an update to that book?
Yeah, yeah, I'm sure there could be. There's a lot more there, and it was back in the day when I couldn't talk a lot about Secret Service, and now I'm out, and I know what to talk about and what not to. So I think I got a pretty good hand on that. But yeah, who knows? It's always a possibility.
Yeah, it'd be fun. Dave, give the title of your book so my listeners can maybe check it out.
Yeah, so it's called The Husky Hitman, and yeah, it was I don't know. We did it probably about 10 years ago or so. It was put out, and no, it was fun to do, and it was brought back a lot of great memories.
Look forward to reading it at some point. Well, Dave, thank you so much for coming on the Sports Untold podcast. Had a lot of fun, learned a lot, and just great. And you handled my Secret Service questions very, very elegantly. You kind of knew where to go or not to go. I wasn't trying to trap anything. I was just very.
It's all good, Paul. It's all good. No, you're great, and you got a great show, and thanks for all you do.
Well, thank you, Dave. Really appreciate it. It's been fun to have a lot of Husky guys from my era on. I hope to have some more and to see what I stay in touch.
Sounds great. Thank you.
Thanks, Dave. I'll have you say goodbye to Olivia too.